Welcome to From Dorms to Desks, job hunting tips for those early in their careers. A podcast brought to you by College Recruiter job search site, which believes that every student and recent grad deserves a great career, and hosted by Work Defined. Join our AI co-hosts as they dive into tips, tricks, and insights that will help you land your next part-time, seasonal, internship, or entry-level job. Let's get your career started.
I want you to picture a scenario. It's a very specific, like a very visceral scenario.
Oh, I think I know where this is going.
Yeah, you probably do. And if you have ever lived through this, your heart rate might actually tick up just a little bit, just hearing about it.
Yeah.
So you are sitting at home. The glow of your laptop screen is, illuminating your face in this otherwise dimly lit room.
Right.
And on the desk right next to you is a piece of heavy stock paper. It's a fresh degree.
The golden ticket. Or so they tell you.
Exactly. Or represents 4, maybe 5, maybe 6 years of your life. Countless late nights, missed social events, and a mountain of financial investment. And right in front of you on that glowing screen is your email inbox. And it is completely, utterly empty.
Ooh, that hurts.
It does. Or, honestly worse, it's not empty, but it is filled with generic, automated, no-reply emails. You know the ones. They'll start with some variation of that same soul-crushing phrase.
Oh, yeah, yes. Thank you for your interest, but due to the high volume of applicants.
Yes, that exact one. It is a very special kind of stress. It's this suffocating weight because, you did everything you were supposed to do. You played by all the rules. You got the grades. You walked the stage. And now the world is responding with just deafening silence.
It really is a profound psychological shock. Think about the environment you just spent the last 2 decades in.
Right.
You spend your entire early life in an educational system where the inputs and outputs are, perfectly clearly defined, and they're guaranteed by an authority figure.
You do the work, you get the grade.
Exactly. You do the assigned reading, you memorize the formulas, study for the test, get the A, and advance to the next grade. It is a highly predictable, incredibly safe algorithm. The rules are literally printed on a syllabus on day 1.
Yeah, it's totally gamified.
And then you step off that graduation stage, you walk into the job market, and suddenly that algorithm is just completely shattered. Doing the work no longer guarantees the outcome at all.
Which is terrifying.
It is. The transition from a structured, predictable academic terrarium to the unstructured, chaotic reality of the economic market is, it's beyond disorienting.
It makes you feel like you were doing something fundamentally wrong, even when you are following the exact playbook the University Career Center gave you.
Yeah.
You tweak the font on your resume, you add an objective statement.
Oh, the objective statement.
Right. You run it through spell check, and you send it into the void. And that absolute failure of the traditional playbook is exactly why we are here today. We are doing a deep dive into a piece of source material that is going to completely dismantle the way most people think about looking for work.
It's a great piece, too.
It really is. We are analyzing an article from College Recruiter published on June 5, 2026. It's titled 10 Tips for Those Who Graduated Without a Job and Are Now Searching.
But, the title is almost a bait and switch.
How so?
Well, it sounds like a generic, listicle, wear a nice suit to your interview kind of stuff, but the actual content is anything but generic.
Right. What makes this source so fascinating isn't that it's a list of standard HR tips. It is a collection of 10 highly specific, deeply personal retrospectives from people who were staring at that exact same empty inbox, feeling that exact same crushing weight, and decided to just completely rewrite their rules of engagement.
Yeah, they just opted out of the normal game.
Exactly. So our mission today is to take a sledgehammer to the traditional application method. The one where you throw 100 standardized resumes into 100 different digital portals and just pray to the algorithm gods.
The spray and pray method.
The spray and pray, yep. Instead, we're going to unpack the exact surgical strategies these 10 graduates used when they realized the system was broken. They stopped being passive applicants waiting to be chosen, and they started operating like businesses hunting for clients.
Which honestly requires a massive, uncomfortable paradigm shift. If there is a foundational theme that underpins all 10 of these stories, it is a radical shift in identity.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that shift is huge. What do you mean by identity shift?
Well, the graduates who actually win in this hyper-competitive landscape are rarely the ones with the absolute highest GPAs.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they aren't always the ones with the most prestigious academic pedigrees either. The winners are the ones who undergo a fundamental psychological shift. They stop asking for a job and they start offering to solve a problem.
Stop asking for a job. Start offering to solve a problem. That is a massive distinction.
Think about the underlying mechanics of those two approaches. When you ask for a job, you are positioning yourself as a consumer of resources.
Like you're a burden.
Basically, you are asking a company to give you a desk, a laptop, health insurance, a salary, and training. You add a cost center to them. But when you offer to solve a specific problem, you are positioning yourself as a producer of value.
I see.
It is the shift from saying, please hire me, I need a chance, to saying, here is a friction point in your operation, and here is exactly how my specific skills can eliminate it. It changes the entire power dynamic of the interaction.
I love that distinction. Let's ground this in the real world immediately, because the first hurdle everyone faces is just getting through the door. How do you pitch a solution to a company when the front door is locked, barred, and guarded by automated tracking software that rejects your PDF before a human even sees it?
Right, the applicant tracking systems, they're brutal.
They really are. And we get our first blueprint from a graduate named Anna O'Neill. Now, Anna's story starts with some brutal, sobering statistics. She was finishing her master's degree.
So she's highly educated.
Very. She already has an advanced level of education, placing her in the upper tier of academic achievement. And between January and May of her graduating year, she applied to over 100 jobs. 100.
That is a lot of cover letters.
It is. And she got exactly 3 interviews. And out of those 3, she received 0 offers.
Let's just hold on those numbers for a second because they perfectly illustrate the absolute futility of the modern application portal. 100 applications. If you assume she spent even just 1 hour tailoring each resume, writing a cover letter, navigating those awful clunky portal interfaces, that is 100 hours of highly concentrated emotional energy and hope invested into a system.
Just thrown away.
And what was the yield? A 3% conversion rate to a phone screen and a 0% success rate. When you are operating in a system that produces a 0% yield, the logical conclusion is not to increase your volume.
Right. You don't just double down on a broken machine.
Exactly. You don't say, well, I guess I need to send 200 applications this month. The logical conclusion is that the system itself is structurally flawed, or your reliance on it is a tactical error.
It's the definition of insanity. Do the same thing and expecting a different result. Anna hit that wall of desperation. She wanted full-time work, but the front door was a literal brick wall. So she stopped knocking on it. She looked for a side entrance.
And her side entrance is brilliant.
It really is, because she didn't use the internet at all. She reached out directly to the CEO of a startup company who had actually come to speak at one of her university classes.
Real-world networking. It still works.
Yes. She completely bypassed the HR portal and leveraged a localized connection. Now, she wanted a full-time job, but she didn't ask for one. She asked for an internship. And the CEO told her, look, we don't have the headcount to hire you full-time, but we will create a project for you to work on while you look elsewhere.
She compromised.
She did. She took the internship, even though it wasn't the goal. She treated it as an opportunity to gain practical experience. But here's the kicker. Halfway through that temporary internship, her boss sits her down and offers her a full-time job.
Wow.
2 years later, at the time this article was published, she's still working there as an account executive. And her retrospective advice to anyone listening is very specific. She says look for internships or rotational programs much, much sooner. Because companies, especially startups, treat internships as a free trial.
The psychology of the free trial, from the employer's perspective, is something almost no new graduate really understands.
Tell me more about that.
Well, when you are a student, you view yourself as a bundle of limitless potential. You think, I'm smart, I am capable, I'm a fast learner, I just need a chance to prove it.
Sure, you believe in yourself.
But you have to step out of your own head and understand how an employer views you. Especially a startup CEO who is watching every single dollar. To them, hiring an unproven entry-level full-time employee is a massive, terrifying operational risk.
How so, though? Isn't an entry-level person like the cheapest hire they can make?
Cheapest in base salary, maybe, but the total risk profile is enormous.
Okay, lay that for me.
First, there is the direct financial risk: salary, payroll taxes, benefits, equipment. Second, there is the time risk. Someone senior has to stop doing their actual job to train you for 3 to 6 months before you become a net positive to the company.
Which costs the company money.
Exactly. Third, and perhaps most terrifying to a startup, is the cultural risk. Are you going to get along with the tight-knit team? Are you going to require constant hand-holding? Do you panic under pressure?
Oh yeah, a bad culture fit can destroy a small team.
And finally, the legal and administrative risk. If you turn out to be a terrible fit, firing a full-time employee is painful, it drains morale, it consumes managerial bandwidth, and it carries potential legal liability.
I've always thought about this like dating. Submitting a resume is like handing someone a piece of paper that says, I'm a very good person with a high GPA, and asking them to marry you on the first date based solely on that one piece of paper. It's an insane leap of faith to ask of a stranger.
That is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
The traditional hiring process forces an employer to take a massive leap of faith based on incredibly limited, highly curated, deeply biased data.
Right, your resume and maybe your rehearsed interview.
Yeah. An internship or a short-term project completely alters that dynamic. It systematically de-risks the transaction for the employer. They don't have to marry you. They just have to agree to get coffee for a few weeks.
Which is way less scary.
Totally. The employer gets to observe your work ethic, your critical thinking, how you handle vague instructions, and your cultural fit in real time. And they get to do it with a clearly defined expiration date.
Right, so if it doesn't work out, there's no miss the firing process. The internship just ends.
Exactly. It is a low-stakes, free trial of your professional capabilities.
And Anna points out something incredibly insightful in the source material about why this works so well. She mentions that a lot of businesses have projects they've been putting off due to a lack of bandwidth. Like, they have work that needs doing, but they aren't actively hiring for it.
Yes, the concept of the unadvertised bandwidth problem, this is a goldmine for job seekers.
I love that phrase.
If you have never run a business, you might assume that companies are perfectly optimized machines. I promise you they aren't. Especially in the small to medium enterprise or startup space, leadership is constantly playing triage.
Just putting out fires.
Exactly. They are ignoring minor bleeding to fix major hemorrhages. They are focused on making payroll, closing the enterprise client, or fixing a critical software bug. But every single manager has a secondary list of someday projects haunting them in the back of their mind.
Give me an example of a someday project. What does that actually look like in practice?
It's the operational clutter. Maybe it's cleaning up and organizing a chaotic CRM database that has been neglected for 2 years.
Oh, I've seen those. They're a nightmare.
Right. Maybe it's doing a comprehensive audit of a competitor's new social media strategy. Maybe it's migrating thousands of old client files to a new cloud server architecture. These are tasks that absolutely need to be done. They would provide immediate value.
But no one has the time.
Precisely. They simply do not rise to the level of urgency required to trigger the massive friction of the formal hiring process.
Because hiring is such a pain.
Think about it. To fix that database, a manager would have to draft a job description, fight with the CFO for budget approval, post the job, sift through 300 resumes, conduct 20 interviews, and then onboard someone. The administrative friction is heavier than the problem itself.
So the project just rots on the vine.
Exactly. It rots. Until someone like Anna walks in, she bypassed the entire friction engine. By approaching the CEO directly and asking for an internship, essentially offering her time and baseline competence, she removed the administrative burden from the employer.
She made it easy for him to say yes.
The CEO didn't have to go find a solution. The solution literally walked up to him and introduced herself. Suddenly, that someday project sitting on the back burner becomes the perfect low-risk test environment. She solved a bandwidth problem he didn't even know he had the flexibility to fix.
It makes me think of an analogy. Let's say you want to get a table at a critically acclaimed, completely sold-out restaurant on a Friday night.
Okay, I'm with you.
Submitting generic resumes to an online portal is like sitting on your couch, calling the restaurant's main reservation line over and over and over again. You are just going to get a busy signal, or you're going to get an automated voice telling you they are booked until next year.
And you're just getting more and more frustrated.
Right. It feels like a personal rejection, but it's just math. Their front door is jammed with 10,000 other people doing the exact same thing. Anna's approach is entirely different. Anna's approach is like walking around to the back alley of that exact same restaurant, knocking on the heavy metal kitchen door, finding the head chef who is currently sweating, yelling, and panicking because his dishwasher called in sick.
The unadvertised bandwidth problem?
Exactly. And saying, hey, I know you don't have a spot on the line for a sous chef right now, but I will wash dishes for the next 4 hours just to show you how fast I move, how clean I work, and how I handle the chaos. You are completely bypassing the reservation system and injecting yourself directly into their operational reality.
I love that visualization because notice the shift in authority in that kitchen analogy.
What do you mean?
The chef does not have to consult the general manager or the HR department to let a willing person wash dishes for a few hours in an emergency. The barrier to entry drops to near zero.
That's a great point.
And once you are inside that kitchen, once you are proving your worth in real time, the dynamic shifts. The chef is going to notice. They're going to see your work ethic. They're going to see you anticipating needs before they ask.
Because you're already on the team, essentially.
Right. And when a paying, permanent position on the line does open up a month later, who do you think they're going to hire? The person who sent a polished PDF to the reservation email inbox, or the person who is already standing in the kitchen, covered in soap, proving they can handle the heat?
The person in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Every time.
Anna proved she could handle the heat. That's why she got the full-time offer before the internship even ended.
But wait, let me push back on this a bit. Anna had a massive advantage. The CEO came to speak at her class. She had a localized, real-world connection teeing her up.
That is true.
What if you're listening to this, and you go to a massive state school, or you live in a rural area, and high-profile startup CEOs aren't dropping by your Tuesday morning seminars? If you don't have that localized network, how do you force a free trial? You can't just literally knock on back doors of office buildings. Security will escort you out.
Fair point.
If they say no to the free trial, or you can't even get them on the phone to ask, what is the play?
That is the exact right question. If you can't get permission to do the work, you stop asking for permission. You do the work independently, you generate the results, and you use the finished product as your battering ram. You don't ask for a free trial. You build the evidence yourself.
Which brings us to the stories of Shiraz Ali and Sean Smith, and the strategy of building undeniable evidence. Let's look at Shiraz first.
Shiraz is a great example.
His story is a masterclass in pivoting away from a failing system. He states that he graduated without a single job prospect. He spent months applying through the portals. The automated rejection emails kept piling up. But instead of just getting angry at the system, he diagnosed his own vulnerability perfectly.
What did he say?
He said in his retrospective, "Although I had qualifications, I couldn't provide evidence that I had the capability to perform any job."
That is a staggering level of self-awareness for a recent graduate. He recognized the fundamental structural difference between a qualification and a capability.
Okay, break that down for me. What's the difference?
Most people conflate the two. A degree is a qualification. It is a piece of paper that says you sat in a room, you read the assigned books, you theoretically understand the concepts, and you passed the standardized tests.
It's all theory.
It's entirely theoretical. Capability, on the other hand, is practical. Capability is the demonstrable ability to take that theoretical knowledge and apply it to a messy, chaotic, real-world business environment to generate a positive, tangible outcome.
I see.
Employers do not hire qualifications. They hire capabilities. They hire evidence.
Right, they want proof. So Shiraz completely stops sending applications. He cuts off the traditional method entirely. Instead, he decides to build his own proof. He builds a portfolio website. But he doesn't just upload his old college group projects and essays.
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
He takes a sniper approach. He selects exactly 3 firms, just 3 companies out of the entire economy that he specifically wants to work for. He intensely researches them. And then he proactively audits their current marketing strategies.
Just out of the blue.
Just out of the blue. He didn't send an email saying, "I'm good at marketing, please let me audit you." He just did the audit.
Yeah.
And he didn't just send a text-heavy PDF either. He attached a brief video of himself actually walking through their data, explaining the specific, actionable changes he would make to improve their business processes.
That is so bold.
He did the work up front, unsolicited, and the result. 2 out of those 3 firms got back to him immediately. 1 hired him part-time within 3 weeks, which quickly escalated into a permanent, full-time job.
Wow.
And today, as of this article, he is the founder and CEO of a company called HRO Links Builder.
Let's dissect the mechanics of what Shiraz did here, because the contrast with the spray and pray method is just absolute. He went from a 0% response rate on mass applications to a 66% response rate by targeting just 3 companies.
It's a crazy jump in efficiency.
Why did this work so effectively? Because he shifted the burden of proof. When you send a standard resume, you are essentially saying, "Please expend your valuable time and energy to interview me so I can try to convince you that I am as good as this piece of paper claims I am."
which is exhausting for the employer.
Shiraz eliminated that step. He didn't promise he was a good marketer. He simply performed high-level marketing work and handed it to them. He proved his competence before they even knew his name.
He removed the leap of faith. But I'm curious about the medium he chose. Why a video? Why not just a really well-formatted report?
The video element is the secret weapon. Think about a hiring manager's inbox.
It's probably terrifying.
It is a graveyard of text. AI-generated cover letters, keyword-stuffed resumes, sterile corporate jargon. A personalized video of a living, breathing human being thoughtfully analyzing that specific manager's specific problems is a massive, jarring pattern interrupt. It forces them to look.
Yeah, you almost had to click play.
And crucially, it demonstrates soft skills that a PDF cannot convey. In a 3-minute video, they can see his communication style, his enthusiasm, his professionalism, and his ability to synthesize complex information verbally.
It makes him a real person.
Exactly. It shows a level of targeted, bespoke effort that proves he cares deeply about their specific business, not just acquiring any job.
We see a very similar ethos in the source material from Sean Smith. Sean also didn't secure a single contract before leaving school. So after graduation, instead of hitting the portals, he spent his time creating a portfolio of personal projects, demonstrating how he solved actual problems.
Proving capability again.
Yep. He then provided these concrete examples to potential employers to demonstrate his capabilities. He says that by doing this, he went from being just an applicant with a piece of paper to being a qualified professional who could contribute immediately. Today, he's the founder and CEO of Alpus Wellness. Both of these guys essentially materialize their own track records out of thin air.
And Shiraz offers a really potent piece of retrospective advice regarding the timing of all this.
What's his advice?
He says that if he possessed a time machine, he would have started working on this portfolio during his final semester, not after graduation. He states, a job application was seen more as a task that should run alongside acquiring the degree and not a post-degree employment search.
So, doing it at the same time.
He is advocating for a parallel process. Select a skill, do something useful with it for no charge or little charge, and document the results. This is actually a profound challenge to the traditional chronological model of education, which has always been learn the theory first for 4 years, graduate, and then apply it.
Right, the linear path.
Shiraz is arguing that in the modern economy, you have to learn and apply simultaneously. The portfolio cannot be a frantic post-grad afterthought. It must be the parallel engine running alongside your degree.
Okay, I have to jump in right here. I need to play devil's advocate because I can practically hear some of our listeners yelling at their phones right now.
Bring it on!
I can feel the resistance. We are talking about doing free audits. We are talking about doing unpaid work for companies that you don't even work for. There is a very loud, very valid cultural conversation happening right now about fair compensation, about crushing student loan debt, and about the systemic exploitation of young labor.
Absolutely.
So, isn't going to a profitable company and offering to do free audits or unpaid consulting essentially exploitative? Why should a new graduate, who might be tens of thousands of dollars in debt, just give away their highly educated labor for free? Aren't we just encouraging companies to expect something for nothing?
That is a highly relevant, deeply important, ethical, and strategic question, and it is absolutely critical that we distinguish between systemic exploitation and a strategic self-directed investment.
Okay, what's the difference?
Exploitation is a structural dynamic. It is when a company relies on uncompensated or undercompensated labor to perform its core, ongoing operational functions. If a company tells you, we need you to work 40 hours a week for the next 6 months for free so you can prove yourself before we consider hiring you, while they profit directly from your daily output, that is exploitative.
Yeah, that's just gross.
That is an abuse of a power imbalance.
Right, the classic work for exposure trap that creative professionals talk about all the time.
Exactly. But that dynamic is entirely absent from what Shiraz or Sean are advocating. What they are doing is entirely self-directed and asymmetrical.
Asymmetrical.
Yeah. They are not asking a company to define their unpaid labor. They are defining the scope themselves. Doing a targeted, finite, unsolicited audit of 3 companies from your own living room is not being exploited. It is a highly strategic, self-funded marketing campaign.
Okay, I'm tracking.
Think of it like a new business giving away a free sample. When a local bakery opens up and they stand on the sidewalk handing out small pieces of a new pastry to people walking by, They aren't being exploited by the pedestrians.
No, they're trying to get them in the door.
They are strategically utilizing a fraction of their inventory to prove the quality of their product, with the calculated expectation that the immediate proof of quality will convert that pedestrian into a paying customer.
Oh, that is a fantastic way to reframe it. You aren't giving away your labor. You are investing your labor to acquire a high-value client.
Exactly. As a new graduate with no track record, you are the new bakery. You are an unproven entity. You have zero market share and zero brand trust. By dedicating a few hours to create a highly specific, unsolicited audit or project, you are manufacturing a free sample of your intellectual capital.
You control the terms.
You control the scope of the project. You control the timeline. You are not an unpaid intern fetching coffee on their schedule. You are an independent consultant providing a limited proof of concept on your own terms.
This feels totally different.
You are spending your time because you don't have money to spend to bypass the HR filters and buy direct, unfiltered access to the decision makers. It is a marketing cost, paid in sweat equity, designed to acquire the ultimate client, which is a full-time employer.
That distinction between ongoing systemic exploitation and a finite, self-directed marketing expense completely changes the calculus.
Yeah.
You aren't giving away the whole farm. You are just handing them a single, perfectly ripe apple so they know your soil is good.
Exactly. Well put.
And once you accept that premise, once you decide to build that evidence, create that audit, or design that portfolio of solutions, the next major hurdle appears.
The pitch.
The pitch. Who do you actually send this pitch to, and what vocabulary do you use when you finally get their attention? Because if you send a brilliant, highly technical marketing audit to a chief financial officer, their eyes are going to glaze over.
This is where the transition from an academic mindset to a corporate mindset becomes a linguistic challenge. You have to learn how to translate your skills into the only language the market understands.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We are shifting into the strategy of speaking the language of the bottom line, focusing heavily on return on investment, or ROI, and why targeting high-growth firms is a cheat code for this approach.
Oh, the ROI pitch is everything.
We see this linguistic translation brilliantly illustrated by Jonathan Orrs. He graduated without a job, and his response was to treat the job search itself like a serious high-stakes financial analysis project.
Smart guy.
He didn't just passively scroll through job titles on LinkedIn. He extensively researched the operating expense structures of medium-sized companies. He then created targeted presentations that clearly illustrated how he could utilize his specific analytical abilities to generate immediate operational efficiencies and cost reductions.
He spoke their language.
He explicitly states in his retrospective that the return on investment, the ROI focus of his approach, is what allowed him to resonate with hiring professionals. It fundamentally changed the dialogue. They weren't talking about his lack of formal experience anymore. They were talking about his tangible ability to create value for the organization. He is now the CFO of Ingenious Prep.
Jonathan's strategy isolates the most critical yet rarely discussed communication gap between a new graduate and a hiring manager.
A vocabulary gap.
Exactly. When you spend 4 years in a university, your primary audience is a professor. A professor's entire job is to evaluate your theoretical understanding of a subject within an academic framework.
So you learn to sound smart in a classroom.
Right. Students are implicitly trained to speak academic. They learn to write bloated essays to hit word counts. They talk about theories, abstract methodologies, sociological impacts, and learning objectives.
Yeah, big words.
They're trained to say things like, I have developed a robust multidisciplinary understanding of qualitative market research dynamics.
That sounds like a 4.0 student.
It sounds smart in a seminar room, but when you enter the job market, your audience changes drastically. Your audience is no longer an academic evaluator. Your audience is a stressed-out business operator.
Who probably hasn't slept well in a week.
And a business operator does not care about your theoretical understanding in a vacuum. They care about exactly two things.
Which are?
Increasing revenue or decreasing expenses.
Yeah.
That is the fundamental language of business.
They speak bottom line. They don't care how many pages your thesis was. They care if you can move the needle on a spreadsheet.
Precisely. Hiring managers are constantly, sometimes subconsciously, running an ROI calculation in their heads during an interview. They're thinking, if I spend $65,000 a year on your base salary, plus $15,000 in benefits, plus the 3 months of lost productivity it takes to train you, will you eventually generate more than $80,000 worth of hard value for this department?
That's the math they're doing while you're talking about your strengths and weaknesses.
Jonathan understood this math inherently. He didn't walk into an interview and say, I am a very good analyst, look at my grades. He walked in, pointed to their specific operating expense reports and said, if you hire me, my analysis will identify supply chain inefficiencies that will save you $100,000 in the first 2 quarters. That covers my salary, my training, and returns a net profit to your department on day 1.
It's just a no-brainer at that point.
He stopped pitching his skills and started pitching guaranteed financial outcomes. He eliminated the guesswork for the hiring manager.
And we see this exact same realization from Daryl Stevens, who is now the CEO and founder of Digitech Web Design. Daryl didn't have immediate opportunities after graduation, so he built his personal brand by providing digital support to local small businesses to improve their online presence.
More capability building.
Right. He says he gained experience through actual results to demonstrate his skills, but his retrospective is what really hits home regarding this language barrier. He admits, I understood the technical aspects of my field, but failed to see the financial impact of my contributions to my employer. Today, understanding the language of business will make you a much more versatile and valuable employee.
He had to learn the hard way.
He had the technical skill. He could sit down and code a beautiful website, but he didn't initially grasp that the business owner didn't care about the clean code. The owner only cared that the website drove revenue.
It is a profound shift in perspective. It's the difference between a web developer saying, I can code a highly responsive, aesthetically pleasing e-commerce checkout page using the latest JavaScript framework, versus saying, I noticed your current checkout page has a slow load time. I can optimize it to reduce cart abandonment by 15%, which, based on your estimated daily traffic, will recover roughly $10,000 in lost sales every single month.
Wow.
The first statement highlights a technical feature and gets a polite nod. The second statement highlights a financial benefit and gets you hired on the spot.
Okay, I love this concept, but let's make it incredibly concrete for the listener. Because telling someone to translate academic experience into an ROI-focused proposal sounds amazing in theory, but it can be really paralyzing in practice.
It's hard to do if you've never done it.
Especially if you are sitting there thinking, I just have a generic liberal arts or marketing degree. I don't know how to calculate corporate cost reductions. Let's role play this for a second.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's pretend I am a recent grad. I have a standard marketing degree. My biggest, most impressive accomplishment on my resume is a senior capstone group project where we designed a mock social media campaign for a hypothetical made-up energy drink. If I am trying to get the attention of a real employer, how on earth do I translate that academic group project into an ROI-focused proposal?
This is a great exercise. Let's break it down. If you rely on your university training and speak academic, you would probably describe that project on your resume or in an interview by saying something like, I collaborated closely with a cross-functional team of 4 students to design a comprehensive multi-channel social media strategy utilizing demographic segmentation and advanced A/B testing principles to maximize hypothetical brand awareness among Gen Z consumers.
Right. And honestly, that sounds like almost every single entry-level resume I have ever read. It uses all the right buzzwords. It's perfectly fine, but it is totally sterile. It doesn't connect to a real company's bottom line at all. So how do we perform the translation?
To translate it into business or ROI language, you have to extract the underlying mechanical skills you used and apply them directly to the target employer's current reality. You completely strip away the story about the hypothetical energy drink.
Because they don't care about the fake drink.
The employer doesn't care about the energy drink. You focus entirely on the system you built. You would approach the target company and say, in my recent capstone, I engineered a digital marketing framework designed to efficiently identify and capture undervalued audience segments. I utilized strict A/B testing protocols that, according to our data modeling, reduced customer acquisition costs by 12% over a 3-week period.
Okay, now that sounds like business.
And then you connect it to them. You say, now, I have spent the last 48 hours analyzing your company's current ad spend and creative strategy on Instagram, and I believe that by applying the specific segmentation framework to your upcoming Q3 product launch, we can lower your cost per click and increase your conversion rate, directly improving the ROI of your current marketing budget. Here is a 1-page roadmap of exactly how I would implement that testing protocol in my first 30 days.
Boom. That is a completely different conversation. You aren't talking about the grade you got from a professor. You are talking about their Q3 product launch and their ad spend.
You're solving their problem.
You are taking the theoretical tool you learned in the classroom, bringing it into their building, and showing them exactly how you will use it to fix the plumbing in their house. But that brings up another major strategic question. It matters whose house you are pitching this to.
Absolutely. The target matters as much as the pitch.
If you take that aggressive, proactive pitch to a massive Fortune 500 company, you might just get swallowed by HR bureaucracy. Which brings us to the strategy of James Scribner, who is now the co-founder of the Freedom Center.
James figured this out early.
James had no offers, so he changed his entire targeting philosophy regarding the size of the companies he pursued. He completely stopped looking at corporate giants and specifically targeted smaller, high-growth firms.
This is perhaps one of the most highly strategic pivots in the entire article. The size and velocity of the target company dictates everything.
James says these smaller, high-growth companies desperately needed people who could make an immediate difference. He bypassed portals entirely and sent messages directly to the individuals making hiring decisions, explaining exactly how he could solve their operational challenges. Why are high-growth firms such a fertile hunting ground for this specific type of aggressive ROI-focused strategy? Why did James find traction there when the big corporations were shutting him out?
It comes down to the fundamental difference in structural agility and operational chaos. Large, established, legacy corporations operate on a foundation of bureaucracy and predictability.
They like order.
They have massive, rigid human resources departments. They have strict hiring budgets planned a year in advance. Their applicant tracking systems are literally designed to screen people out, to reduce the pile of resumes to a manageable number.
So they don't want you disrupting that flow.
They don't want immediate, chaotic problem solvers. They want predictable cogs designed to fit perfectly into a pre-existing, well-oiled machine. High-growth startups and scaling firms are the exact opposite.
They're messy.
They are scaling revenue and operations faster than their infrastructure can handle. They are essentially trying to fly an airplane while they are still bolting the wings on. They often don't even have a formal HR department. The founders, or the stressed-out department heads, are making the hiring decisions on the fly between meetings.
Just trying to plug holes.
And most importantly, they are drowning in immediate existential operational challenges.
They have problems that needed fixing yesterday, and they don't have the time to build a perfect hiring rubric.
Exactly. They are taking on water. They do not care if you have exactly 5 years of experience, or if you formatted your margins perfectly, or if you checked every arbitrary box on a standardized rubric.
They just need help.
If you can walk into a chaotic, high-growth startup, completely bypass the non-existent HR department, email the decision maker directly, just like James did, and say, I see that your customer onboarding process is bottlenecking because of this software integration, and I have the specific skills to automate that and fix it by Friday, they will hire you on the spot.
Because you're handing them a life raft.
They are desperate for capable hands to grab a bucket and start bailing water. James recognized that his proactive ability to make an immediate, tangible difference was infinitely more valuable and more highly compensated in a chaotic, high-growth environment than it was in a static, heavily guarded corporate environment.
And Jonathan Orze has a great retrospective point about creating leverage in these scenarios. He says if he could go back in time, he would have proactively pursued professional, industry-specific certifications during his junior year of college.
Yes, the certifications.
He says having those specific credentials would have given him significant negotiating power and reduced his search time, calling a strategic plan the best insurance policy against economic uncertainty. He realized that a bachelor's degree is just a baseline expectation now, but specialized certifications are tangible proof of specialized capability that translate directly to business value.
It goes right back to the core theme, de-risking the hire and proving immediate ROI. A degree says you are educated. A specific certification in Salesforce, or AWS, or Advanced Google Analytics, says you can sit at a desk on Monday morning and operate the machinery without breaking it.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of strategic ground. We've talked about how to bypass the front door using the free trial method. We've debated the merits of building evidence and self-directed audits instead of just relying on a resume. We've dissected how to translate academic skills into ROI-focused proposals and why pitching those proposals to high-growth firms yields better results.
It's a solid toolkit so far.
But there is a massive, glaring underlying question here that we haven't answered yet. It's the how. If you are sitting on your couch in your apartment, how do you know what the operational bottlenecks are at a company you don't even work for? How do you find the right problems to solve in the first place? You can't just guess what's broken.
This is where we move from the theory of strategy to the gritty reality of intelligence gathering. You have to learn how to embed yourself in the spaces where the truth is being spoken.
Right. And Roman Sidorenko provides an absolutely fascinating blueprint for digital intelligence gathering. Roman graduated without a role, and he says he treated the search like building a weekly sales pipeline.
Very methodical.
He narrowed his focus significantly, targeting just 15 to 20 specific companies. But the genius of his strategy is how he used Reddit. He states that he used Reddit in a non-promotional way to understand what hiring managers and rank-and-file employees were actually complaining about in his specific field.
This is so smart.
He used these unfiltered complaints to sanity check which skills were real, desperate hiring signals versus what were just nice-to-have bullet points written by an HR rep who didn't understand the job. He used this gathered intelligence to tailor his portfolio and his proof-of-work projects to solve real-world problems. Today, he's the CEO of Reddit Services.
Roman's approach is a masterclass in modern digital sociology. If you think about it, subreddits, Discord servers, and specialized online forums are essentially unvarnished global digital break rooms.
Right, people just venting.
If you read a company's press release, or visit their corporate website, or even read their official job postings, you are getting a highly sanitized, corporate-approved, legally vetted version of reality. Everything sounds synergistic, optimized, and perfect.
It's PR.
But if you bypass the corporate site and go to the subreddit for system administrators or digital marketers or supply chain logistics professionals, you see the actual human beings venting. You see them complaining about the software update that keeps crashing, the managerial workflows that are completely broken, and the vendor decisions that make no sense.
You find the pain.
Roman realized a profound truth. Complaints are just data points for unsolved problems.
Yeah.
By meticulously reading the complaints of the people actually doing the work inside the industry, he was quietly mapping the exact pain points he needed to solve in order to make himself invaluable.
It's brilliant. Let's walk through how that actually works mechanically. Let's say you want to work for a mid-sized logistics software company. You don't just apply. You find the subreddit where logistics software developers or account managers hang out. You search keywords like hate, worst part, broken, or bottleneck, and you read.
You just listen.
If you notice that 50 different account managers are complaining that a specific integration with Shopify is constantly breaking and causing clients to churn, you have found the bleeding neck. You go learn everything there is to know about fixing that specific Shopify integration.
And then your pitch is ready.
And then your pitch isn't, hire me, I'm a hard worker. Your pitch is, I specialize in stabilizing the Shopify integration that I know your account managers are struggling with. He was getting the answers to the test before he even walked into the interview room.
It is incredibly powerful. But we have to highlight the stark warning Roman includes in his retrospective. He says if he could go back, he would start this relationship-building process much earlier. He warns, on Reddit, trust compounds when you show up with useful comments and don't force an agenda. When you only appear at the moment you need a job, you look like a drive-by.
The drive-by networker. That phrase is so perfectly descriptive. It is a fatal error in the digital age. I love that phrase because it reminds me so much of a very specific universal human experience.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
We all know that one person from high school. You know exactly who I'm talking about. You haven't spoken to them in 8 years. You haven't liked a single one of their photos. They haven't checked on you once.
Yep, here it comes.
And then, out of nowhere, on a Tuesday afternoon, you get a Facebook message that starts with, hey, hon, I have this amazing new supplement opportunity for you.
The dreaded MLM pitch.
It's the multi-level marketing pitch. And what is your immediate visceral reaction? It's revulsion. Why? Because it is a purely transactional interaction masquerading as a genuine relationship. They didn't show up to provide value to your life. They showed up to extract value from you. That is exactly what a drive-by networker is in a professional community.
That MLM analogy is spot on. Online communities, especially highly technical or tight-knit professional ones, have developed incredibly sensitive, highly attuned immune systems against self-promotion and extraction.
They can smell it a mile away.
If your very first interaction in a community is, here's my resume, I'm looking for a job, please hire me or refer me, the community will reject you instantly. They will downvote you into oblivion or ban you. You are attempting to extract value without having deposited any value.
It's like writing a bad check.
Roman understands that in these spaces, trust is a compounding asset. You build it slowly. You build it by answering beginner questions, providing useful links, commiserating with industry struggles, and engaging authentically over a period of months. You have to provide value before you ask for a favor.
Right.
If you've spent 6 months being a genuinely helpful, consistent presence in a community, and then you casually mention you're looking for a new role, the dynamic flips. The community will rally behind you. They will dig up unlisted opportunities for you. They will become your advocates. But you can't fake the compounding time.
And if Roman mastered the art of digital covert intelligence gathering, our next graduate, Joe Spisak, mastered the art of analog blunt force intelligence gathering.
Joe's story is wild.
Joe's story is probably the most aggressive, spectacular, and unconventional pivot in this entire deep dive. Joe states that he spent 3 depressing months applying to standard corporate positions, getting routinely rejected, and feeling like his expensive degree was a complete waste of time and money. Then he snapped.
He just had enough.
He stopped applying and started building. But listen to how he identified his target problem. He didn't use Reddit. He literally picked up the phone, cold called every small business owner he could find in his region, and bluntly asked them, "What sucks about your operations right now? What is completely broken in your business?"
He bypassed the subtle research phase entirely and went straight to the source with an incredibly audacious question.
It really is audacious. Most people are terrified of the phone. But he just asked them what was broken. And one specific business owner told him that he was absolutely drowning in order fulfillment for his online store. The owner was spending all his time packing boxes instead of growing the brand.
That's a huge pain point.
Joe, having zero experience in logistics, offered to figure it out for free just to learn the mechanics of the problem. That initial free problem solving turned into a paid consulting gig. Then Joe had an epiphany. He realized that this wasn't an isolated problem for one guy. Order fulfillment was a massive industry-wide pain point for thousands of growing e-commerce brands.
He found a scalable problem.
So just 6 months after graduation, Joe takes a massive leap and starts his own fulfillment company. And he does it in a literal vacant morgue because the rent was cheap.
That is just, you can't make that up.
He says in the article that it wasn't glamorous, but it was his. Fast forward a bit, and by age 28, he hit $10 million in revenue and eventually sold the company. He is now the CEO of Fulfill.com.
Joe's story is the ultimate maximalist manifestation of the producer mindset we talked about at the very beginning of this deep dive. He didn't wait for a legacy corporation to define a tiny, restrictive role for him. He proactively hunted for friction in the open market and built an entire enterprise around solving it.
He made his own job.
But we need to pause and focus on a very specific quote from his retrospective because it is arguably the most profound disruptive statement in this entire article. Analyzing his failed corporate job search, Joe says the dirty secret about entry-level positions is they're designed to fill seats, not launch careers.
Yeah, that line hits like a ton of bricks. Designed to fill seats, not launch careers. I want to linger on that. What does that actually say about modern corporate structures? Because universities pitch entry-level jobs as the first glorious rung on a golden ladder to success.
It exposes the harsh, mechanical reality of the corporate pyramid. At the wide bottom of the pyramid, companies require sheer volume. They need data entry, they need basic spreadsheet analysis, they need low-level customer service routing.
Just warm bodies.
They need basic gears turning to keep the machine running. The systems and HR structures for these roles are mathematically designed to extract maximum output from these entry-level employees at the lowest possible cost, with a high rate of burnout and turnover already expected and priced into the financial model.
That's depressing.
These roles are not benevolent incubators designed to nurture your unique genius and mentor you to the C-suite. They are holding pens. They're utility roles. If you enter through the traditional mass-market entry-level application portal, you are implicitly agreeing to be a highly replaceable gear. You are agreeing to fill a seat.
You become a commodity.
Exactly. Joe refused to play the commodity game. He recognized that true career velocity doesn't come from quietly ascending a predefined ladder, one tedious rung at a time, hoping someone above you retires or promotes you.
That takes decades.
True velocity comes from identifying a high-leverage problem, like e-commerce order fulfillment, and making yourself the undeniable solution to that problem.
He expands on this, saying, find a problem that pisses people off, get obsessed with solving it, and make yourself impossible to ignore. And he literally did that in a vacant morgue. Let's just pause and appreciate the sheer grit and mindset shift required there.
I mean, a morgue?
Imagine walking into an abandoned, creepy morgue. Most people see a horror movie set. They see a dead end. Joe walked in, looked at the tiled floors and the drainage, and saw cheap, climate-controlled square footage with loading docks that were perfect for an e-commerce fulfillment startup. That is the literal definition of seeing opportunity where everyone else sees a dead end.
It is the ultimate reframe, and his retrospective advice to his younger self is completely uncompromising. He says if he had to do it all over again, he would skip the spray and pray portal method entirely. He wouldn't send a single resume.
Just opt out completely.
Instead, he would spend those 3 post-grad months doing free, targeted work for 5 small companies in one specific industry. He clarifies, not formal internships, actual problem solving. You learn faster, build real relationships, and discover opportunities that never get posted on LinkedIn. The best jobs aren't advertised because someone already knows someone who can do them. You need to become that someone.
You need to become that someone. It's about building gravity so opportunities come to you, rather than you chasing them. But while digital communities and massive entrepreneurial pivots are incredibly powerful tools for finding those broken things, we cannot ignore the physical, human reality of the job market. Despite all the sophisticated algorithms, the ROI calculations, and the digital networking hacks, business is still, at its core, a fundamentally human endeavor.
Which is the perfect pivot to the final psychological barrier. Because all the brilliant strategy, all the Reddit intelligence, and all the portfolio building in the world does not matter if you crumble at the first sign of interpersonal rejection, or if you can't actually sit across a table, look another human being in the eye, and confidently communicate your value.
We see the enduring power of old-school, face-to-face human interaction in the story of Joshua Zeises, who is now the CEO and CMO of Paramount Wellness Retreat. Joshua graduated without a professional commitment lined up. So instead of hiding behind his laptop, he embarked on what he describes as a time-consuming schedule of informational interviews with alumni in his field.
Informational interviews are perhaps one of the most powerful yet most widely underutilized tools in the modern job seeker's arsenal.
Why do you think people avoid them?
Most new graduates actively avoid them because they are intimidating, they require vulnerability, and frankly, they don't offer the immediate, cheap dopamine hit of clicking submit on an online application portal 50 times a day.
Right, clicking submit feels like you're working, but it's often just motion without progress. Informational interviews take actual, terrifying social effort. But Joshua says they were extremely beneficial.
Yeah.
They gave him unvarnished insight into the real career path, but more importantly, he noted that they helped him significantly refine his elevator speech or professional pitch. And eventually, this compounding human connection led directly to a referral for a highly competitive job that he wouldn't have found otherwise.
I am so glad he highlighted the refinement of his pitch, because that is the hidden magic of the informational interview. Most people think it's just about begging for a job over coffee.
Like a sneak attack interview.
Right. But it isn't. An informational interview is real-time market research, and crucially, it is live fire practice. When you are sitting in your bedroom practicing your elevator pitch to the mirror or recording yourself on your phone, you are operating in a safe vacuum. You are grading your own homework.
You're not getting any pushback.
But when you are sitting across a small cafe table from a 15-year veteran of your industry and you deliver your pitch, you get immediate, visceral, nonverbal feedback.
The feedback loop is instant.
It is instant and undeniable. You see their eyes slightly glaze over when you use too much academic jargon. You see them lean in and raise an eyebrow when you mention a specific operational efficiency or a tool you know how to use.
You can read the room.
You learn in real time how to modulate your tone, how to read the room, how to pause for effect, and how to articulate your value under the subtle pressure of a real human interaction. By the time Joshua actually got to a formal high-stakes job interview, he had probably pitched himself 30 or 40 times to industry insiders. He wasn't nervous, he was battle-tested.
It's the difference between hitting a baseball off a plastic tee in your backyard and stepping into the batter's box against a live pitcher throwing 90 miles an hour. You have to get in the cage and see live pitches. And speaking of getting in the cage, of getting out from behind the safety of the screen, we have to talk about Carl Deegan. Carl is currently the CEO and founder of Viking Roofing. Carl wanted a strong entry-level position but left school empty-handed. His strategy: he landed his first job through pure, unadulterated persistence by physically walking door to door to local businesses to hand them physical copies of his resume.
Wow. Literally door to door.
He walked in, looked the owners in the eye, told them he was willing to work incredibly hard, and asked to come in at an entry-level position just to understand the mechanics of their business.
Now, in 2026, when this article is published, and honestly, even today, that analog approach sounds almost laughably archaic. It sounds like boomer advice from 1985, just hit the pavement, kid, and give a firm handshake.
Right. It's a cliche.
But Carl explicitly states why it worked for him. He says in his retrospective, "My honesty and ability to communicate directly were two things that stood out about me in a time when almost everyone else was communicating behind a screen."
That is the defining phrase, behind a screen. In an era where every single applicant is a sanitized, keyword-optimized PDF sitting in a cloud server, stepping into a physical lobby is a radical act of differentiation.
It absolutely is a radical act. Let's analyze why Carl's door-to-door method still functions effectively despite all the technological advancements in HR. When you submit a digital application, you are forcing the employer to evaluate you on easily comparable metrics, GPA, keywords, brand names of past internships. You become a row on a spreadsheet.
You're just data.
You are easily sortable and therefore easily dismissible. When you walk through the front door of a local business, you force a human interaction. You are demonstrating intense vulnerability because they could reject you to your face, which is terrifying.
Takes a lot of guts.
You are demonstrating grit. And most importantly, you are instantly proving your interpersonal communication skills. A business owner can learn more about your confidence, your professional demeanor, your ability to handle awkward situations, and your cultural fit in a 45-second lobby conversation than they can from 100 pages of digital portfolios. You force them to deal with a three-dimensional human being instead of a two-dimensional data point.
It's undeniable proof that you are willing to do the uncomfortable thing. If you will walk into a strange lobby and pitch yourself, you will probably handle a difficult client call just fine. But I want to pivot back to Joshua Zeiss's for a second, because his retrospective advice poses a really fascinating thought experiment that we need to address.
Let's hear it.
He noted that if he had to do it all over again, he would have searched many more areas than just his one specific industry. He says his focus was initially way too limited, and he missed out on jobs that would have been incredible learning experiences because he was stubbornly wearing blinders. It makes me wonder about the fragility of hyper-specialization in the modern economy. So here's a thought experiment. If your specific industry, the one you got your degree in, the one you're desperately trying to break into, if it completely disappeared tomorrow, vanished from the economy due to AI or market shifts, how would your current skills translate to an entirely different field?
That is a brilliant diagnostic question for anyone feeling stuck, because it forces you to separate the context of your skills from the mechanics of your skills.
The context versus mechanics, I like that.
People get incredibly attached to their job titles and their specific industry context, but if you are a digital marketer for e-commerce and e-commerce magically disappears, are you totally unemployable? No. If you look at the mechanics, you realize your actual skill is understanding human psychology, analyzing data trends, and digital persuasion.
Which applies to anything.
Those underlying mechanics can be instantly applied to nonprofit fundraising, local political campaigns, public health initiatives, or recruiting. The graduates who truly thrive, much like the ones highlighted in the source material, build skills that are highly transferable. They focus on understanding the underlying physics of business, how to solve complex problems, how to generate revenue, how to reduce operational costs, how to manage people rather than just memorizing the rigid rule book of one specific industry.
And building that broader resilience is crucial, because no matter how good your strategy is, this process is going to hurt. You are going to face rejection. Sean Smith, who we talked about earlier with his incredible portfolio of solutions, has a really poignant retrospective on the emotional toll of the hunt. He admits, I would have taken more of a long-term view and not gotten so frustrated when I was rejected at first. Every no I received hurt me personally and drained my energy.
It's so hard not to take it personally.
He is very honest about the physiological and psychological toll of the job hunt, but his ultimate realization is key. Now, I realize many times a no simply means it wasn't the right time.
We have a deep psychological tendency to internalize rejection as a final, absolute judgment on our inherent worth. When a company says no, the unseasoned graduate hears, "You are not good enough, you are a failure."
It feels like a grade, like an F.
But Sean is pointing out the complex reality from the other side of the desk. Often a no has absolutely nothing to do with your capability. The company might have lost a major enterprise client that morning and frozen all hiring budgets instantly. The hiring manager might be dealing with a personal crisis and just defaulted to hiring an internal candidate to save time and energy. The budget might have been slashed by a capricious board of directors.
You just never know what's happening internally.
The no is the result of an intersection of 1,000 chaotic variables, most of which you do not control and will never see. True professional resilience is the ability to decouple your self-worth from that systemic chaos. You take the rejection, you look for any objective data to improve your pitch, you refine your approach, and you move forward without letting the no drain your operational energy.
You treat the no as just a data point, not a verdict on your soul. And I think that brings us full circle. We've covered a massive amount of ground today, analyzing these 10 incredible retrospectives from the College Recruiter article. We've completely dismantled the passive spray and pray method. We've looked at Anna treating internships as a strategic free trial to solve unadvertised bandwidth problems. We've seen Shiraz and Sean completely bypass the resume by building undeniable portfolios and offering finite self-directed audits.
The bakery samples,
yes. We unpacked the linguistic translation required as Jonathan and James targeted high-growth firms by speaking the language of ROI and bottom-line efficiency. We explored how Roman used digital communities like Reddit to covertly gather intelligence on broken systems, and how Joe Spisak literally walked into a vacant morgue to build a $10 million company by solving the messy logistics problem nobody else wanted to touch. And finally, we grounded all of this advanced strategy in the old-school, undeniable human resilience of informational interviews and door-to-door grit shown by Joshua and Carl.
When you synthesize all of these disparate stories, the core takeaway is a massive, fundamental shift in perspective. The traditional educational system tells you that your first job validates your education. It tells you to wait to be chosen. But these 10 graduates prove something entirely different.
What's that?
Your first job matters significantly less than your first real demonstrable skill. The people who succeed in this environment stop submitting endless paperwork to blind algorithms. They stop begging for a seat at the table. Instead, they go out into the market, they find real people dealing with real, painful operational problems, and they offer them tangible proof that they can fix them. They transition from passive applicants waiting for permission to active problem solvers creating their own demand.
So what does this all mean? It means the power dynamic is actually entirely in your control if you are willing to change your approach and endure a little discomfort. You don't have to wait for the inbox to ping. You don't have to wait for the algorithm to favorably sort your PDF. You can start building your track record, your evidence, this very afternoon.
And I want to leave you with a final, lingering thought to explore on your own. We spent a lot of time today talking about corporate businesses, startups, and high-growth firms. But I want you to look around your immediate current environment today.
Wherever they are right now.
Look at your university department, your part-time job, your local gym, your church, or even a specialized hobby group you belong to. In that environment, what is the one operational bottleneck or the broken thing that everyone constantly complains about, but no one is taking the initiative to fix? What is the friction point? And more importantly, what would happen if you decided to map out a solution and fix it this weekend, completely on your own, without asking for anyone's permission?
That is the perfect place to leave it. Stop staring at the empty inbox, go find the broken thing, and start fixing it. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take these strategies, stop waiting for the algorithm, and go build your own demand. We will see you next time.
This has been From Dorms to Desks, job hunting tips for those early in their careers, a podcast brought to you by College Recruiter job search site, which believes that every student and recent grad deserves a great career. Each episode, we dive into tips, tricks, and insights that will help you land your next part-time, seasonal, internship, or entry-level job. Subscribe to this podcast for free now, so you don't miss an episode, and visit www.collegerecruiter.com to find your next great job.